Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Conscious Health Podcast. Today, we are doing something crazy and going live so that we can answer any questions. I'm so happy to be here with my co host, David Ortega. Um, Welcome, everyone. And today we are covering the topic of, can your health be a spiritual path? Now, that is such a big topic for me as well. Diving into that question, it's quite deep. So I'll go quickly and I'll say absolutely. My answer is absolutely. In fact, I feel that it is the most direct path that we will ever walk, is really connecting into our health. And our body is not just a machine that we drag around, behind our soul. It's our temple and our compass, and sometimes it's our greatest teacher as well. So I think that
Yeah.
every ache, every burst of energy, every imbalance in the body is whispering and sometimes shouting, a message. So when we pause and we listen, we realize that our body is actually guiding us towards a deeper truth all along. How do you feel about that? Having a scientific mind first and foremost.
Well, it's just very intriguing as we were warming up before recording, and I think that many times we are very biased
Hello,
by
everyone. And oops, sorry.
by what we feel and by what we are experiencing in our bodies, and many times depending on the threshold and the influence that we have from our parents or people that we witness experiencing health issues, we learn to express things, we learn to cope with pain, and many times we keep it just to us and we don't say anything until we really are um, led by our bodies to go to bed. And that is just very advanced when you go to into those stages when you really need to go and stay in bed, or even worse, when you arrive to a hospital. So it's very, very important that we keep this connection with our bodies and we learn to perceive these signals that are subtle when they are like that, and don't make them arrive to the end stages, because that's when things can get very complicated for everyone, because it's not just us. Also, we complicate the lives of the people around us.
Yeah, absolutely. But there's nothing like a health crisis to question the meaning of life, right? Or to appreciate life as well. And a lot of the times when it's part of an awakening, right? A lot of the times that when we get asked that question, when we start to ask ourselves, like, you know, what is the meaning of what am I doing? It births purpose because a lot of us will change our lives absolutely completely once we have that realization. And a lot of the as well that happens is that I know people that have become doctors because they have experienced some kind of a health illness when they were younger. And it builds that curiosity, which is quite interesting. And from a quantum perspective, our beliefs, our emotions literally shape our biology, is my belief. I mean, science shows us how stress hormones weaken the body, while other emotions, kind of like, gratitude and joy and love, tend to boost our immunity and the ability for our cells to repair.
Mm.
So it's very interesting in that perspective when we start looking at our health and how do we bring that spirituality into our health, right?
Yeah. It's a very thin line, I think, where we pass this emotional and spiritual side, and we get into the biological expression and reflection of things. So it's very interesting how if you interview anyone that has experienced something, some kind of illness or an emergency in a hospital or anything that is related to health, and you ask them how they were the previous 2 days, the previous week, so they can tell you and you can understand the story of what was happening, what was brewing inside of them, and how they were mixing many emotions that you spoke already, and that many times we say, well, that's just life, or I don't know why I feel like that, and you don't even pay attention to those things, and you distract yourself with something either in the media or with your own work, and you keep going through the exactly like the word says, through the motions. You
Mhm.
just keep going through the motions and you don't pay attention until the body tells you, well, you know what? I'm sorry, but you will have to listen.
What do you mean? If I ignore it for long enough, it'll just go away, David. That's how it works.
Oh,
No, I know.
we wish
Absolutely.
we wish that it was like that, but no.
Well, we try. We
Yes,
try.
we try exactly.
Yeah. No, I think there's that. So it's always faceted, multi-dimensional, because not only is it the aspect of how we treat our bodies, our environment, but I also believe that even though we inherit the the genes or the opportunities to experience intergenerational illness, we're not trapped by a family's history, that we have the power to rewrite it, right? And like I notice it like when like my mom sometimes, but she's always had mobility issues in the sense of she's always had flat feet. She's always had issues with her feet. And now it's like, oh my goodness, I need to start becoming more mobile and agile so that when I'm her age, I'm healthier,
Mhm.
right? And our belief systems as well is the same because she's like, ah, I'm 76, something's got to be wrong with me. And I'm like, no, it doesn't. And it's one of those things where I think because we also have a belief system that our body's going to start shutting down, that the body starts shutting down at a certain time as well, right? I think it's
Yes.
important to put in, and we have more practices now. We have more awareness. Thank goodness yoga's made its way from the east to the west because it's helping us as well. But looking at our breath, our food, and the internet has also helped us a lot as well in the sense of doing research and all sorts of things like that. But I definitely think it's a spiritual path because it's like you say, the body is that last expression of what our soul has come to experience here.
Yeah, and I have so many examples in these days about these topics. One with a relative of Mary, an uncle.
Mm-hmm.
Her uncle just died last week, and he was really suffering loneliness, and he was very lonely since his wife died. Like that was more or less 2 years ago. So he tried to express his loneliness to the family, but sometimes it's difficult for men in that generation to express more emotions, to express more things about how he felt. And people were not paying attention also to what he was trying to express. So what happened is that he reflected many of those things in the lack of care that he had with his body. He was smoking more, he was eating really poorly, and he had a lot of also comorbidities, let's say. He had hypertension, he had diabetes, he smoked. So all of that was a combination of something that was happening inside of him emotionally. And he felt that kind of loneliness, that kind of pain. He just wanted to be with with his wife and to reach her in the other dimension, let's say. And I think that's why he left. That's why he had a heart attack, and that was it. It was really painful to see that. That's one example of how um, lonely these days people feel, and I think this speaks more to the male generation because we are different. We are wired different, and we are not very easy to relate to other people. We don't have everyone reaching for us, and many times we don't have this kind of solidarity like women. Then when you listen that one of your friends that is a female, it's in trouble, you immediately reach to her and you try to speak with her and you share emotions and you speak and do all of this process. And in the other side with males, it's completely different. We are not wired to do that, and we really don't talk about how we feel usually in between men, no?
Yeah. Why do you think that is?
It's culture. It's culture, it's society, it's just a program that we learn because there wouldn't be another kind of reason. I mean, we can share how we feel, but we sometimes we feel that we are judged.
Hmm.
Sometimes we feel that we are not showing masculinity by talking about our emotions and how we feel, and we show weakness, and that is very very um, painful to show it when people are just watching and when people are just labeling you, no.
Yeah. Yeah. It's I think it's also it's many generations, right? Where you've been taught to shut that down, and now that you shut it down, it's hard um to switch that on again. What does that look like? To have
Mm.
that on again. And like you say, so many people have societal kind of like implications of crying. The same as with women going into the workplace, very much into not feeling safe to show emotion because it would, it's in those different spots, right? And I think that that too is part of a spiritual growth in that sense, in learning and uncovering, you know, what is underneath there. Whereas it's uncomfortable, so we just want to I think we're so used to not being to being so comfortable that any kind of discomfort, we need to make it go away. We don't know how to handle it, right? So it's even for me, it's taken me a while to kind of like move through that. And what am I making things mean? But that you have to get really uncomfortable and dive deep into what it is that you're feeling or expressing, or move past that judgment. So we have a beautiful viewer that is on, and Angela says here, my mother has a ton of health issues, which I believe are related to emotional issues, but because she refuses to explore her emotions, I think she's going to outlive us all. I love that, Angela. And Angela also says it's much easier to take a pill rather than have a conversation. And I completely agree with her
Yeah.
as well.
And that's what people do many times. They want, and we spoke about that the last episode. I think we are very used to instantaneous solutions. We don't have patience, and we really want to get fixed really quickly. And it's not like a car. Our body is not like you go and you take your car to the body shop and or whatever it is, or the
Oh,
mechanic.
sometimes. They
Yes.
have really good body shops in like Turkey and I think in the
Yeah.
East as well, in Thailand.
There could be, but it's not so easy as we wanted, and the body needs to express more. The body needs to go deeper and try to find a way on how to express many of these things. And for people that is difficult to express them, probably by talking, what can work and what I think that can work is that they can write how they feel and just write it for themselves first. Just write how you feel. Just write what you want to say, in spite of not thinking what are you going to say and not caring about who are you going to say the things. So just that, let's say, how do you say it? When you release your stress, this is just an outlet to release those emotions. And then with time, with a little time, you will be able to talk the emotions because you already express them in paper, and that just unloads your body in a way that you can now have more space to speak, you know?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's magic in journaling for sure is one way of expressing. There's like, you know, movement is also another great way to move through. So whether it's dancing, whether it's hiking, whatever it is, like shouting at the, at the top of a mountain, that's a great way to express, even though what we're not, sometimes we don't even know what is under there. I find it sometimes if I watch kind of like a really, really sad movie and I cry for what's happening in the movie and I probably cry for anything else. It's that emotional release that is there that
Mm-hmm.
is allowing to release. And we forget that tears is really a chemical reaction in the body that's allowing the healing. That
Yeah.
is, it's the tears are allowing for it to wash away. It's that expression. The same as laughter
Mm-hmm.
is such a good way
Yeah.
of releasing as well. So it's embracing all of these things, but I don't know, Angela, it's like asking your mom to feel her emotions 100% is important, but we have such a skill to ignore them, shove them, move past them. And actually, that happens a lot in the spiritual community as well, because there's this notion that one should only be feeling positive emotions.
Mm.
And yes and no, in the sense of yes, happiness is a choice, joy is a choice. But when we are going through something, feel it 100%. You need to spend that time. And it's almost like I say, it's like an EKG, like when you're getting your heart monitored, it's up and down. It's that rhythm of up and down because if it's flat, you're dead. I mean,
Exactly.
we're here to really, really have those feelings and deep introspections. So it's very, very interesting because if we bring in astrology into it. I have a lot of Cancerians, or had a lot of Cancerians friends who feel a lot of their emotions, and they're really, really good with their emotions. And I'm Sagittarius, and we feel our emotions. And because I've done a lot of the work, I feel them, but I introspect. I go deep into them. But once I understand it, I move past it usually pretty quickly. Once I understand and get to the root of it, then I'm like, okay, I understand it, and then let's go, right?
Mm.
So they're like, oh, there's emotionless Sagittarius. And I'm like, no, it doesn't, just because I'm not expressing it doesn't mean I'm not going deep within that space of that emotion, which is important too. So it's quite how we tackle our emotions. We tackle them very, very differently, but
Yes.
we need to move through them and understand them. Because it's like you were saying earlier, David, our parents didn't have that opportunity to explore those emotions. They had to suppress it because it was dangerous to be vulnerable at that time. It was survival. So it's we have to understand it. And a lot of the times we come in to make those changes, and that's part of our spiritual path.
Mhm. And that's where I think health starts linking the paths of spirituality, and the meaning and the purpose and the things that are going to happen to you. They have a reason and they have a timing to happen, that you need to understand and make peace with that, to learn the lesson, to heal the generation, and
Mm,
to go through and to break the mold and to break the chain of this ancestral lineage
mhm.
that many times becomes toxic, of course.
Absolutely.
And we leave it like that, and we don't understand, and we don't go further, and we don't ask our parents what happened with them and what kind of health
Mhm,
things happen to their own parents, and deep and dig into those kind of experiences. And I was watching before we record an interview of the tennis player Arina Sabalenka, that is the number one now, and she was asked a question about grief, about how she dealt with grief, with the loss of her father. And she said that she expressed it through tennis, through training, through movement, through this physical expression. And many times I also have that way and that outlet when I feel a big emotion or something that is making me struggle in terms of the feelings that I have. Usually, I like to look for an exercise
mhm,
to express it, to release that kind of mixture of emotions, because in those moments, it's a mixture, it's not just one.
mhm.
Usually, there are many in the mix, no?
Yeah, I usually walk until I figure it out. So I might
Mm.
come back 3 hours later, but I walk fast, which is quite interesting. Like, well, I had a friend of mine that I went for a walk at New Year's because I like to do something new at New Year's.
Mhm.
And she's much taller than me, and she looks at me, she goes, "You walk fast for a little person." I was like, "We have to get the energy
Keep
moving."
up, keep up.
Keep up. Absolutely. So Angela says she's Sagittarius too, so we might have another birthday buddy there, which is great. And then Sarah has said, "Hi, I agree. Natasha, I feel that since I'm a Pisces, I deeply spiritual, then I should be able to process negative emotions better. It's hard not to judge myself for having a bit of trouble." So that's very, very deep. Just judging yourself for going through your feelings. And I think that, and I've said this before on this podcast, is children teach us how to do that, right? They feel their feelings 100%. When they're angry, they lie down, they might kick and scream and move their arms around. You know, they if they're happy, they're 100% happy. But it's releasing the judgment around them. It's, yes, process them your way, right? Or find different ways of processing them. Step into observation. So when I find that when we step into observation and get curious without the judgment, in really looking at, okay, what am I making this mean? What is the story I'm telling myself? So, what are the stories? What are the perspectives, the perceptions around what we are experiencing? Becomes more of that curiosity of, rather than why am I going through this? I'm X, Y, and Z. It's rather than like, why am I going through this? What am I making it mean? How old do I feel? Is a great one because that will take you to that childhood trauma, perhaps, where this pattern began is that so it's yeah it's tricky because it's feel your feelings but don't sit in them, process them, let them go. It's a motion, nothing stands still is my suggestion.
And I think guilt is it's a very common emotion that people feel when they when they experience or when they have a mixture of feelings and they are confused or stuck, or they just feel a deep sadness. and they don't know if they should express that or they should just swallow and just keep on going.
Mhm.
And that's, I think, where we have to try to detach from this program of society that we don't have time and we
Mhm.
have to keep doing things and healing instantaneously and being more like a robot that doesn't feel anything.
Yeah.
And that's not the our purpose here. And as you mentioned earlier, every time we have an illness and every time we experience something in our health, either emotionally or physically, it gives you the break point
Mhm.
to go into a different direction and to ask deeper questions.
Yeah.
So maybe that is the way your body is telling you, well, you know what, you have to reflect on what you are doing. Probably you are not enjoying anymore what you are doing, or something in the environment, whether it's in the family side or in the professional side, is not working for you. And your body is trying to give you that hint, no?
And I think that that's where negative, I suppose, emotions get a bad rep. It's the anger used in a way that is conducive to propelling yourself into the direction that you'd prefer is very healthy. When
Mhm,
we're angry, that comes to tell us that there's something wrong or something that's not sitting right with us.
mhm.
Right. So these emotions are all spectrums of the emotions are important for us, and it is part of our spiritual growth and our expansion, and
Mhm.
because they are indicators of what we are experiencing, the pattern, the conditioning that needs to be let go of, I feel.
Yeah. Yes, yes, I agree that many times these kind of feelings that are strong are trying to point us in the direction that our soul, and this is the spiritual side,
Yeah.
is wants to go. And
Hmm.
many times we are interfering with that, and we are not patient enough to learn how to start understanding that side, the
Hmm.
spiritual side, and the soul's mission, the soul's purpose is
Yeah.
trying to speak to you, but you are immersed in the program and you are just listening to this program and the chat on the media and the chat of the family and the judgment and the guilt and all of those things. But this side doesn't have this contamination, let's say pollution of things and programs. So this is just pure. This is your truth. And this is what wants you to lead you in a different direction. So if we let this part speak louder, that's when we break that kind of pattern of emotions.
Mm. We also give meaning to life as well. So we the ones who decide whether they work with us. But I think if we are going through a big emotion, sometimes, say for example, sadness, whatever it may be, I recommend you ask where are you feeling it into your body and really connect into where is it in your body. Breathing into that area and exhaling also tends to help to uncover or let go of, what it is that it just brings awareness into the body and completes that loop as well. I hope that's helpful. We have a question. Angela's asking, she says, how can we help others bridge the gap of showing emotions? My son, who's 14, struggles so much with trying to control his emotions. His dad doesn't show good emotions. My son cries when he's angry and upset.
Hmm. I can relate to that. And I think I experienced something similar when I was also in that age. And I think that teenage years are the most explosive years in terms of the emotions that you feel. And when you have a conflict with your father as a male, you usually you express it either crying like he's expressing, or getting really angry, angry with everyone, angry with anything that happens in your life. So one gateway I think I found was exercise. In that case, I did swimming, and it was funny because my friends knew when I had something in my emotionally,
Mhm.
and I asked them, let me go at the beginning, let me go at first, so that I can pull everyone and release everything in the pool. So I think trying to talk with him and trying to approach him in a way that he finds an sport or something physical will give him this kind of peace and will give him this kind of outlet so that he can express those emotions.
I also went to a seminar not, well, time goes by so quickly, maybe about 10 years ago. And they were talking about how teenagers start going through a lot of emotions and sometimes they don't know what they are.
Mm.
So they said one way that we can support teenagers is to name the emotion.
Mhm.
Well, so it's almost like saying, "Oh, I can see you're angry," or "I can see that you're disappointed." And somehow something clicks in the brain that goes, "Okay, this is anger. This is how I deal with it." Or, "Okay, this is disappointment." And it kind of like calms the nervous system a little bit as well.
Mhm.
I think it's good that your son cries because that is that release of that complete rage where it has to have an outlet somewhere. And I feel that better out than in is really good. But it's that expending of that, it's helping that emotion to keep moving is important, and moving it out of the body, I think becomes important. Or even listening to music, somehow that tends to also help. Um, you know what? I used to, as a teenager, I used to be able to listen to I could listen to something that was, I suppose, not heavy metal as it's in these days, but I could flip from that to classical music as long as it was played really, really loud. And when we did that podcast with Jennifer around music and music therapy, where she says you basically meet that person at that frequency of that emotion and then bring it out. That helped me to understand that there is place for, I suppose, lower vibrational music because those emotions match that. So I don't know what music your son is into, but perhaps it's almost kind of like allowing him to listen to that, that would help him to express, or listen and walk at the same time, or listen and run at the same time, or whatever it is that might be able to help him move through some of those emotions as well.
Yeah, and probably he will start dancing.
That
If
would be
he
great.
finds that kind of music that triggers him to release that kind of emotion, I'm betting that he's going to start dancing and trying to move his body so that he releases that kind of energy, because it's too much energy. And more if you are a teenager, you need something, usually something physical. More if you are a male. If it was a female, I would say that there are other ways, but usually males need something physical, usually.
I'm glad that that was supportive, Angela. We wish you well and sending lots of love to your son as well. That brings us also to the looking at, can our health be a spiritual path, or it is a spiritual path? So every time we choose an awareness, which is what we were saying earlier, over autopilot, because a lot of the times we're all just running on autopilot. And that's something I'm moving through at the moment in being even more present. So when we choose nourishment over neglect or presence over distraction, we're really walking that path of spirituality, I feel, and aligning our body with our soul, or turning ordinary acts, say for example like eating, moving, or sleeping, into rituals of awakening, that can also become quite conscious or spiritual. So there's meditations for eating. Sometimes we eat so quickly, we don't actually realize that the food that we're putting into our body is nourishing our body, and the energy frequencies connected to that fruit as well, from the time it fell off the tree, or the person that picked it, to going onto the truck, to in the supermarket, to the person that touched. There's so many touch points and so many energetic imprints, and a lot of our food holds water as well, that, and then we're in this emotion, kind of a thing, that we don't actually realize the sacredness of placing this nourishment into our bodies as a spiritual act, but we can slow everything down. I think Ayurveda says you need to chew your water and drink your food. Are you familiar with that? So
Yeah.
chew your water in the sense of kind of like bringing in those enzymes to get the stomach to work. But drinking your food is chewing it so much that you actually end up drinking it, rather than, allowing the rest of you. It's just, yeah, it's so much better for us. But we're so on autopilot, and we're on rush, 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 that we eat so quickly. And that's just one of the normal everyday practices that we have, right?
And
Yeah,
that's
it's
one of the
easy.
messages, I think. Sorry.
Mhm. No, no, go for it.
I think that's one of the messages that we receive from our body and from our health in general.
Hmm.
We need to slow down things. We don't need a pandemic and again. We don't need a new virus again so that we can slow down things. We are, if we suffer this as a society, as globally,
Hmm.
we suffer that in order to learn, how to pace ourselves more to
Hmm.
us and not to in response to society, in response to the rhythm of anyone mark or anyone's profile in any kind of social platform. So we need to understand that our rhythm is not similar to anyone's, and we need to understand when our body is trying to let us know this is enough. I think this week was too much, so you need to rest, and next week you need to slow down a lot so that you can process and again go into a until you find your own rhythm and
Yeah.
until you find that you are comfortable with that and your body is also good in terms of balance, in
Mhm.
terms of having been listened,
Yeah.
and that you also recognize your emotions, and that only will happen if you pause. If you don't have time, it's
Mhm.
difficult for things to happen and for things to be understood.
Yeah, absolutely. Sarah says, David mentioned something interesting, trying to fit or not fit into societal expectations. For me, for example, it is I shouldn't be very emotional because I don't want to be that Latina. Oh, embrace your Latina. Come on, Sarah.
I support you.
Absolutely. And she says, so health is also letting go of those judgments, I think. And I think you're absolutely right. Let go of those. You know what? At the end of the day, people are going to judge you, whether you do or whether you don't. So do what feels right and is an alignment for you, is what I always say, because people will judge you anyway.
Yeah,
It's
exactly.
Even
And
those that love you will judge you. They will have their own filter, their own perceptions, their own perspectives. But it's up to us whether we accept that judgment or not, whether we wear it like a jacket or not. So, yeah, n only those that have walked in your shoes can judge you, and that is you.
yeah, that's only you. And I think that we also need to set boundaries and face people. I mean, for me, nowadays, I always speak myself, speak what I feel. And whenever someone is judging me, I said, well, that's your thoughts, that's your life. That's not the way I live, and that's not what I want. And
Mhm.
trying to defend what you want, what you feel, what you are looking for is something that will make you feel better with yourself because you are expressing the things and your boundaries. And
Mhm.
next time you have this kind of situation where you feel judged, people are going to think twice in terms of telling you what you should do or you shouldn't do. No? And this is also becoming responsible with yourself because this can be tricky. If you are really damaging yourself, that's not good, of course.
Yeah.
So you need to be accountable for the things that you are doing and setting boundaries and trying to look for your place. That's why I mentioned finding our own truth and letting our true self speak. It's the most powerful thing that you can do because that's anyone's reflection. That's only you.
I think finding who we are is a journey within itself because there's so many layers to uncover that I think one needs to be patient with ourselves as well, and give the love and compassion that we give to other people to ourselves. Because a lot of the times, if we look at judgment, we're our harshest judges,
Hmm. Yes.
right? And it's whose voice is it that we're playing in our heads when that is that judgment that is there. So it becomes quite tricky in the sense of how do we approach it, right? And can we approach ourselves with the level of love, care, and compassion that we would in and when I do the inquiry in my mind, say if I've been triggered, I do it from a place of curiosity and wanting to understand rather than a place of judgment within myself. And I don't know if that is supportive. It's like, why have I felt that way? You know, where did it come from? What is the pattern? And it's amazing because once you realize the pattern, it's like, oh my goodness, it's been underneath there all this time. And it's like, oh, and instead of going like, oh, I'm X, Y, and Z because I've been doing X, Y, and Z, it was unconscious,
Hmm.
right? So now that it's become conscious, to continue to respond to things in the same way, that becomes a choice. That is different. So it's looking at that curiosity and like, oh, how can I respond differently next time? And I recently uncovered a different pattern of people pleasing, and I'm quite lucky because my mom lives with me as well. And when I recognized it, I was like, oh my goodness, because my grandmother used to live with us as children, and my mom lives with my children. So we've always got quite a few generations. And I can so remember my grandmother saying the same things to my mom and between my mom and my aunt. And I was like, oh my goodness, I've recognized it. And I was talking to a very good friend of mine, and she said, well, now that you've seen it, what are you going to do about it?
Hmm. Yeah.
Right? So it's having that conversation. And I had that conversation with my mom and my children going, this is what used to happen to vovó, which is how you say grandmother in Portuguese. This is what mom does. My two daughters are totally opposite. So they analyzed from their perspective as to, okay, so this has been happening intergenerationally. How are we going to shift it in a way that is supportive?
Mm.
And I almost see these traits almost kind of like something like a neurodivergent, like a neurodiversity, you know, I have dyslexia, and we end up kind of like finding other ways to cope, right?
Yeah.
So when you see it, you're like, oh my goodness, it's amazing because that thing has helped us to create different skills, right? To tackle it or look at things from a different way. So until you will keep that limitation whilst it serves you. Once you don't need it anymore, usually that's when it gets highlighted and then it's ready, it's gone. It's not needed anymore. It's ready to let go.
Yeah.
So I find that quite interesting from that perspective. And I love now it's almost now we work it the other way where I feel stuck somewhere and I'm like, okay, where did this start? I need to get to the bottom of this XYZ belief system. So you can work it both ways and going, okay, where did it begin? Like why have I taken it on? How has it served me? How can I be grateful for it? And then once you find out how it's actually worked for you all this time, it allows you to be grateful
Yeah.
for this it's and then you see it as a gift.
And I think this is like the perfect way of concluding how
Mm.
health is marking the path of where we have to go, because and health is encompassing a lot of things. It's not just your physical health, it's emotional health, it's patterns, it's things that you repeat, it's understanding why it happens, and all the questions that you mentioned, and all the research that you have to do in your own family, in your own lineage. I think that is going to lead you to your own path and to understanding yourself, and to let go of these patterns, cycles, and things that are repeating generation after generation until you free yourself and you detach from many things and you are lighter. And that's when I think you kind of launch yourself into your own path. No?
Absolutely. If we look at it from an Akashic perspective, we chose that lineage, we chose those gifts and those limitations to work through because those are the themes that we've come to explore on this planet. So we absolutely chose the perfect parents for everything that they are and everything that they're not, right? For everything that they lack, because it drives purpose, it drives expansion, it drives who we are, which is a beautiful thing.
I asked my daughter, I think that we can close with this just
Yeah.
reflection. I asked my daughter what she thought about her mission in this life. Why is she living here? Why she was born? And she answered very quickly. And she said, I know what is my mission. And I know that my mission is to overcome anything that is difficult. And I
Oh,
said,
wow.
that's good. And she answered really quickly and without thinking. And I said, oh my God, this new generation is just in another level, that they already know what they have to do, and they already know that they have to keep on working on things. So this is how we have to process things. We are just in a classroom, in a big, big classroom, and we are students of ourselves and
Yeah.
our own history. So we need to be more curious about what happened before, and about the mistakes, and about the repetitions, and about the things that we came here and why we chose this family, to heal those kind of, let's say, lessons, because they are not mistakes, they are just lessons, and that's it. No?
Opportunities for growth.
Yeah. So
Yeah. Well, thank you everybody for watching and thank you for all the questions. That was wonderful. We tend to usually record these, so I'm happy that you suggested we go live today. Uh, Thank you very much. And if you have any topics that you'd like us to cover, definitely put it in the comments and we will see you all very, very soon. Thank you so much, everybody. Have
thank
a
you.
wonderful evening. Thanks, David.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.